Hello, welcome to this lesson on how to write a top-notch cover letter. So in today's lesson, here is the agenda. What we're going to do is show you how to write an amazing cover letter that you send accompanying your CV. And in question box, I will respond to 7 questions that give you some great advice on what to do and not to do in writing a cover letter. You'll also see a sample of an excellent cover letter, and I'll point out 10 parts of the letter that you need to get right to look your best. There are 2 activities. The first one has you role play a response, to an advertised job, an ad, by writing an actual cover letter. And in activity 2, you'll review the main points and ideas in the lesson. Then I'll wrap up the lesson in the summary. So let's jump to my next point, which is the question box. So welcome to question box. I will answer 7 questions about writing a standout cover letter to, as I mentioned, accompany your CV. So question number 1 is a cover letter important? Well, you bet it is. It is so important that you want it to be amazing to go along with your remarkable CV to set you apart, distinguish you from the competition. Question box number 2. How can I make my cover letter memorable? Well, you want, the answers are pretty clear. You want a memorable letter so the hiring manager remembers you and gives you a call. So your cover letter should look great. Its appearance must be impeccable. And you want to use bullet points to keep your phrases short and punchy, easy to read. You also want to avoid any grammar, spelling, punctuation, or capitalization mistakes. And you want to think REP before sending the letter, which is revise, edit, and proofread. Plus, you want to keep your language professional. Keep it short, not too long, concise, maximum 1 page, and we'll see later, not to include too many details, personal information, or inappropriate information. And yes, and I'll give you some examples of that. So can you give me examples? Yes. So the example would be, if you're an older person, you don't want to say anything about your marital status or the number of children you have. That's too personal. Don't mention your date of birth or your age. And certainly don't say anything about your health. You don't want to talk about your previous salary either, and you don't want to say anything negative about yourself. Okay, let's move on now to the next point here, which is, how can I use a cover letter? Well, there are different ways. If I jump to my answer, how do you think you can use a cover letter? Well, you can answer, there are different ways to use a cover letter by, you can use it to answer a newspaper or online ad, obviously, but you could also use your cover letter to send to a company when no job is listed, to find out if a position may be open, but not necessarily advertised. Tricky. Today I'll just talk about the first kind of cover letter in response to a job ad. Question 5. How should I respond to an advertised online job? This is a good question. It's important to know as much about the company as possible. It's good to know about the specific requirements of the job, and you want to customize the letter for that particular job. This is key. It's absolutely critical, too, to have the address, and if I jump to my answer, yes, research the company, and also customize your letter and address the cover letter to a person in particular. Otherwise, your letter is going to end up in the G file, standing for garbage. Now, move on to my question box 6. What do I do if there's no name on my letter? How can I do that? Well, you have to research the company to find the name associated with a particular department, sales, for example. You could even call the company To get a person's name, you call head of personnel or human resources. Don't be scared. Find a name, as I mentioned. Number 7. Question box number 7 now is, what are some other points to keep in mind? Well, here are some other really good points to keep in mind. As always, I always have a lot of advice. Emphasize your skills and make them match the job description. State clearly that you're the best person for the job. Be dynamic, exciting, so the hiring person clearly sees your qualities. Give specific examples of what you have accomplished. Really important. And say how you'll make a difference to the company. Be assertive and ask for an interview. That's good advice. So let's look at a sample cover letter and 10 things to pay attention to. So if I jump to my sample interview, sample cover letter, here's an example of a good cover letter where we have up at the top is your name and address and so on, the person you're writing to in this space here, the opening, the body paragraph, the bullet points, and so on. So these are the 10 points to keep in mind. The letterhead, the address, recipient to whom you're writing to, the opening paragraph, the body, the unique selling proposition states what you can accomplish. A call to action. You want to request an interview. There's your name, signature. The postscript is leave a message underscoring your value, and enclosure is include your CV with the cover letter. So that's pretty good. So let me go back to my slides here and point out that there are 2 activities accompanying this lesson. In the first activity, if I can call it up here, the first activity here is a role play. You want to respond to an advertised job. And suppose you're an experienced salesperson and are looking for a sales position. You come across an online job advertisement shown below. So here's the advertisement, and you want to follow these 4 instructions. So that's a kind of role-playing activity. And then in activity 2, if I open that up here, in activity 2, you want to review the main points of the lesson, the vocabulary, and key ideas. So that's it. So if I go back to my conclusion here, how to write a cover letter. You found out what to do and not to do in a cover letter. Some really key advice there. You also, in the first activity, created a cover letter in a role play situation, and you reviewed the main points in the lesson. So I hope you enjoyed this overview of a cover letter. Cover letters are pretty important. And we'll see you again soon in another lesson. Thanks. Bye.